Welcome back. You're watching Bernama World. In just over a week, Syrian rebel forces seized much of the country's northwest, the first captured Syria's largest city, Aleppo, followed by Hama and Homs. Last Sunday, the rebels entered the capital, Damascus, taking the city without resistance as government forces fled. Syria's de facto leader, Ahmad al-Sharaa, better known as Abu Muhammad al-Golani, hit the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, which ousted Assad last Sunday, ending 5 decades of the family's authoritarian rule. Now, to help us understand this further, joining me via Zoom is Dr. Olsi Jazeksu, Assistant Professor in the Department of History at International Islamic University, Malaysia. Dr. Olsi, thank you for joining us. Now, can you discuss what caused Bashar al-Assad's government to fall so quickly after holding power for over a decade? Doctor.
It seems that the government of Bashar al-Assad was not able to control its army. We know that the Syrian civil war started in 2011. In that time, Syria will be supported by its allies, which will be Russia and Iran. But then what happened on 27th of November, when the terrorists of Jabhat al-Nusra or Tahrir al-Sham, supported by Turkey, started their attack. And they were supported by a NATO country, which is Turkey, Ukrainian army, and a massive drone attack. It seems that the Syrian army was not able to stand. There are many indications that intelligence services had managed to buy many top officials from the Syrian government, and the army simply didn't fight and it melted away.
Now, Dr. Olsi, Syria is divided by different groups and communities. Can the rebels bring everyone together to form a stable government?
This will be very difficult because for people who know history of Syria, in Syria we have many ethnic and religious groups. We have Alevis, we have the Druze, we have Sunnis, we have Shias, we have Christians as well. And historically, during the era of the French colonization, Syria was divided into 5 countries. It will be the war initiated by the Druze under Sultan al-Atrash, which is going to lay the seeds of unity. And then during the Cold War, during the era of Nasserism, it will be the Assad family, which will play a very important role on uniting the Syrians. But the unity of Syria was based on Arab secularism. The present rulers of Damascus, they are, like it was mentioned in the video that you played before me, they are prescribed terrorists by the United Nations and United States and many Western governments, and they have a very sectarian agenda. The Christians, the Alevis, the Druze, the different groups which live in Syria, they are already horrified. And it will be very difficult for these jihadists to unite the Syrians.
Now, Russia and the US played big roles in Syria's war. Dr. Olsi, how has their involvement or lack of it recently changed things?
Well, Russia was the main backer of the Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad. We have to remember that the Syrian government was a Ba'ath government. It was a relic of the Cold War. They were, in few words, Arab socialists. And their connections with the Soviet Union go from the era when the Syrian state was created and decolonized by the French. The Soviets or the Russians have been there. They built the Syrian army, the Syrian infrastructure. Syrian officials were trained by the Russians. And after the start of the civil war in 2011-12, Russia became the main backer of the Syrian government, while the Americans, they wanted to destroy Syria because the destruction of Syria meant the superiority of Israel over the people of Syria. The Americans, it seems, they succeeded on toppling the government of Bashar al-Assad, with the help of the jihadists, Turkey, and other Arab countries. But what is going to come ahead will be very difficult. For the time being, Russia seems to have retreated from Syria, while the Americans, they are trying to determine the future of Syria, which very probably will be divided between Turkey and Israel.
Now, Turkey seems to support the rebels. And what role will Turkey play in shaping Syria's future, Dr. Olsi?
Turkey is supporting the rebels for a number of reasons. Number one, Turkey was interested to oust the Iranian and Russian influence from Syria. Number two, it seems that there was some kind of secret agreement between Americans, Israelis, and the Turks for taking over the country. So the Turkish government is hoping to be the new ruler of Syria. But will it succeed? It seems very difficult. Why? Because there are so many neighboring Arab countries, the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Saudis, and on top of that, the Israelis, that they don't want the Turks in Syria. So the future seems to be very difficult for the Turks.
Now, in my last question, how will Israel's actions in Syria affect the region and its conflicts with Hezbollah and Iran?
For Israel, the toppling of the government of Bashar al-Assad is the greatest victory which Israel had over the Arabs since the Israeli-Egyptian peace treaty of 1979. Syria was the last Arab country which neighbors Israel, which was in a state of war since 1948, when Israel was created and Israel started massacring and deporting the Palestinians. Syria has fought 4 major Arab wars with Israel, and the government of Bashar al-Assad was the main supporter of the Palestinians, who was helping them with weapons, with logistics, and for Hezbollah as well. Iran and Russia, they were using Syria as their foothold in the Middle East. Russia needed Syria for its military bases to face NATO in the north, while for Iran, Syria was very important because that was the pathway for the Hezbollah and the Lebanese resistance against Israel. Now that the government of Syria is toppled, things look very bad for Palestinian resistance. And Israel, as we all know, is relentlessly bombing Syria, is dismantling state institutions, and Israel is trying to use the jihadis as its ground army in order to dismantle the Syrian state. At the same time, Israel is occupying Syrian territories, and Israeli extremist ministers like Smotrich and others, they claim their desire for creating the greater Israel on the lands of Syria. And it seems that Syria will be divided, like Poland was divided between Nazi Germany and Soviet Union in 1939.
Thank you so much for those insights, Dr. Olsi. And that was Dr. Olsi Jazekciu, Assistant Professor in the Department of History at International Islamic University.